Scripture reading is taken from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 1 and 6 through 8. Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment.
And thank you for the reading of that word, Heidi. We are continuing and winding down our series on the secrets of successful living. Our lesson title for today is You Have the Power. You have the power. And as you heard, our scripture was taken from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 1 and 6 through 8. Now, I do want to touch on some of the highlights of last week's lesson. And last week, we made a statement. And that statement is, it doesn't exist. Anybody remember that from last week? It doesn't exist. In our conscious mind, we think about all sorts of things. We think about things that have happened. We think about things that are happening. And we think about things that might happen. Much of what we go through in our conscious mind is about things that may be negative or limiting or even depressing at times, things that are not necessarily good, things that are not necessarily positive. In our subconscious phase of mind, we feel and we have our fears and our doubts and our negative emotions, and our subconscious phase of mind receives. It doesn't originate any ideas, it just receives ideas and information from the world, and if you will. But there's a part of us that is very different. There's a part of us that doesn't have any doubts, that doesn't have any fears, that doesn't have any limitation, that doesn't have any concept of a lack. It's like children, young children. You can't tell a young child that he or she isn't able to do something because they believe they can do it. Now, we know they don't have the strength or the wherewithal to do it, but in their mind, in their consciousness, whatever it is, they believe that they can do it. Now, at a certain point, we tell them, we as their parents and their guides, if you will, we tell them, well, no, don't touch that because that's hot. Talking about the stove, let's say, and at a certain point we tell them, well, no, don't run across the street after that ball that you're playing with, because their car's covered and so on. So at a certain point, we and the world tells them, well, don't do this and don't try that, and no, you can't do that. But there is still within them, there is still within us, that feeling, that spirit that says, conceptually, get the concept, that we can do it. Now, we have a choice, and this is real important. We have a choice as to whether to listen to that part of our being that tells us that we can't do it, that it may be start a business, that it may be stop smoking, that it may be find a mate, that it may be get a promotion on our job, or whatever that it may be. But there's a part of us that tells us that we can't do it. There's a part of us that tells us that, well, I don't know, you might be able to do it, but then again, you might not. And if you try it and you don't make it, then you're going to be upset, and then you're going to feel worse than you feel now. So maybe you shouldn't even try it, because, you never know. Right? And then there's a part of us that doesn't know anything about lack, doesn't know anything, has no concept whatsoever about not being able to achieve something. It's just like the question, and many of us have heard it. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? Well, guess what? There's that part of us that is within us. That is that tree of life, as we spoke about last Sunday, that doesn't know anything about failure, doesn't have any concept of not being able to achieve something. So that part of us that doesn't know anything about not being able to achieve a particular thing, well, if you connect with that part of yourself, which is the Christ within you, if you connect with that through prayer and meditation and sitting in the silence, then you will receive the understanding. You will receive the insight that it is possible. It is doable. You can do it. But we have a choice, as I said. Either to listen to the part of us that tells us that we can't do it and we shouldn't do it, or to listen to the part of us that doesn't know anything about failure. What is the one thing, I like to use this analogy, what is the one thing that the fish isn't aware of? Air. Because everywhere the fish goes, there's water. Isn't that right? Mm-hmm. Everywhere a fish travels, so to speak, there's water. So it doesn't know anything but water. In fact, it doesn't even know that there's water because it doesn't know the other thing, anything else. It just knows water. Just like us. What do we know? We know air. We know oxygen. We are never any place where there's no oxygen. Well, there's a part of us that only knows success, that only knows peace, that only knows harmony, that only knows abundance. And when we connect with that part of ourselves, then we will feel the truth in that, because that is the truth. Because as we said last Sunday, God put the tree of life in the midst of us, telling us to eat of that tree and not to eat of the other tree. The other tree tells us, no, you can't do it. No, don't try it. No, nobody else has been able to do it. So you're not going to be able to do it. So it tells us all those negative things. So we have a choice as to which tree to eat from, whether to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil or to eat from the tree of life.